Hello everyone and welcome to SimpliCode. Today we'll be discussing HTML drag and drop elements. Before we start, I hope the screen is clearly visible and the audio is fine. If yes, please type in yes, and if there are any issues, then do let us know in the chat section so that we can resolve them. So let's wait for some more minutes so that some more people can join us. Until then, let me tell you guys that we have regular updates on multiple programming videos. So if you are a programmer and if you want to learn something new, then consider getting subscribed to our YouTube channel and press that bell icon to never miss any updates from SimpliCode. Great, I think we can get started. You guys will enjoy today's topic because we'll learn something new and fun. Something that we can do with HTML, CSS and JavaScript. And that will help us make our web page or website more engaging and exciting to use. So we all know that HTML is mostly used for creating the structural part of a web page. CSS is used to style it, and JavaScript on the other hand is used to add interactivity to a web page. In this particular tutorial, we'll see how we can drag and drop elements on a web page. Let me give you a simple example of drag and drop first. Here, so if I open a folder for you, so here you can see we have a folder, and let me open this one as well. So here you can see we have two different folders. One is images and the other one is HTML. So if I drag this HTML image, so this is an image. If I drag this from here and if I put it here, if I leave my mouse button, you can see the image is moved. So here what we are doing is we are dragging an image from one folder and we are dropping it in another folder. Now drag and drop means taking something from one place and leaving it at another location. So this refers to drag and drop in real life or in computer world. We can say whatever you want to say, you can say. So quite an easy task, right? We all know about it. Now what we'll do today is we'll try to achieve this same thing using a little bit of HTML, CSS and a lot of JavaScript. So I hope you guys are already aware of JavaScript. If not, so you guys can go through our JavaScript playlist. We have already covered JavaScript in our YouTube channel. So you can go through that playlist and you can learn JavaScript as well. So let's start with the programming part directly and we'll see what we can do to achieve this drag and drop thing in JavaScript. First of all, we'll do the HTML part. So HTML part goes first because every time we create a web page or do anything on a web page, the first thing we need is the structure of a web page. So what we'll do is we'll create some div tags over here, some containers basically. So we'll write over here div class is equal to, let's say, box. Then we are going to close it. We are going to do the same thing for a few more times. So let's say we are going to write here box again. We are going to close this div as well, and we are doing it for, let's say, 3 times. We'll write class over here. Class is going to be box again, and we have added 3 div tags over here. So we can say 3 boxes as well. Let's add some style. So let's style them so that we can identify all the 3 boxes. So what we are going to do is we are going to move to the head section of our web development document. We can say this is our HTML document. So we are going to move to the head section of it and we are going to write over here style. So this is the CSS part. We'll write over here dot box. Box is the class name. So here you can see we have used the class as box, right? So box is the class name. We are going to style this box. We are going to style all the boxes basically. So we'll write over here float. Float is going to be left. Let's use left. Then we'll write over here background color. Background color you can choose any of your own choice. Let's use aqua. So you can see it's not working right now because we haven't defined the borders and all for all these boxes. So let's save it once, and here you can see it's not working. So it will work, don't worry about it. So we are going to define the width and height as well. So the width is going to be, let's say, 400 pixels. Save it. Then we have height. So we'll write over here height. Height is going to be 400 again. So we'll write over here 400 pixels. Then we need to give margin as well. Margin is going to be 10 pixels. And then we are going to give padding. Padding is again we are going to use 10 pixels. So these all are basic CSS properties. Now the last thing we are left is border. Border is going to be 1 pixel, solid and black in color. Save it. And here you can see we have all the 3 boxes. If I zoom in this Chrome browser, here you can see we have 3 boxes. All 3 are blue in color or sky blue. I am not so good with colors, so you guys can guess the colors, I think. So we have this border which is 1 pixel and solid and thick, or we can say black in color. So this is working totally fine. We are done with all the boxes. Next up, we'll add an image to the first container. So we are going to drag an image from this container. We are going to drop it in another container. For that, we need an image first, right? So we are going to move to the first div tag, and here we are going to add an image. So we'll write over here img. Then we have to use, let's say, id. id is going to be img1. Then we are going to use src. src is going to be, we have this image html.png, which is situated, I guess, inside the images folder. So we have to write here images html.png. this is our image, and we have to write here draggable. Draggable we are going to set to true, and we are going to write over here width. Width is going to be 300, and then we'll use the height attribute. Height is again going to be 300, let's say. The draggable attribute here indicates if a particular element can be dragged or not. It can either be true if we want the element to be dragged, or false if we don't want it to be dragged freely. So this is why we use the draggable attribute. Images can be dragged by default in modern JavaScript. So if we write here false for draggable and then save this program, then it will not allow us to drag this particular element or image. Fine. So let's save this and let's see if it's working. So here you can see we are able to drag this image. Now we are going to do one thing. We are going to try false over here, save it. And here you can see we are not able to drag this image anymore. Fine. So that's what we mentioned just now. We mentioned that images can be dragged by default in modern JavaScript. So modern browsers share this property or hold this property with them already. Now we'll have the two other containers empty so that we can drag and drop the image from container 1 to the other two containers. Now you can see the image is not well structured inside the container on the browser. For that, we have to apply some style, or we can say we have to style this image as well. So we'll leave some margin here from the left and top of this image. Fine. So we'll move to the CSS part again, and we'll write over here we have used the ID attribute within the img tag, you can see. So we are going to style this with the help of img1. I guess this is the ID. Yeah, this is the ID. Now we'll write over here margin top. Margin top is going to be 50 pixels. And we are going to write here margin left, which is again going to be 50 pixels. Save it. And here you can see the image is centered now. Or you can make some more changes if you want to, guys. So that's not too much of concern as of now. So it's working totally fine. So let's leave it here. Now we'll do nothing with CSS now to make this video more easy and understandable for everyone, because doing so much styling and all might lead to confusion for you guys. So let's move to the JavaScript part directly, which is undoubtedly the most essential part of this tutorial. Now the logic is simple. We have to drag this image here and drop it in another box here. The logic seems easy to speak, right? So let's start with the coding part. We'll things in between. We'll see all the things in between, but before that, what we need to do is we need to add a JavaScript file. So we'll write over here script src. For that, let me create a JavaScript file one. So we'll write over here drag.js. This is going to be a JavaScript file. We'll write over here drag.js. We'll mention the type. Type is equals to text / JavaScript. Close it. Save the program. And here we have drag.js. Fine. So what we'll do is we'll start writing a JavaScript code over here. First thing first, we need to access two HTML elements for this, the box and the image inside it. Here you can see we need to access this box, all the three boxes, and the image. Fine. So we need to access all of them. We can either use the ID tag, or we can either use the ID attribute, the tag name attribute, or the class name method. It's totally upon us what we want to use. Or we can also use the query selector method. It depends on you totally what you want to do here. For now, we'll use the class name method and the ID method to access all the elements. So what we'll do is we'll write over here first. Let's say const image. This is a variable. So with the help of const keyword, we declare a variable in JavaScript. We'll write over here document dot get element by ID. Let's access this image first. So the ID of this image is img1. Fine. So we'll copy it from here. We'll paste it here. That's fine. And we'll do one more thing. We are going to add another variable for boxes. So we'll write over here const boxes document dot get element by class name, because we have used the class property because we need to access all the 3 boxes. That's why we have used the class attribute. I guess you guys know the difference between the ID and the class attribute, right? If you haven't watched that video, please watch it. It's the most important video in this HTML tutorial, or we can say whole HTML playlist. That video is the most important one. So you guys have to understand the difference between the ID attribute and the class attribute. Fine. So this time we are going to use the class name attribute. So the class name we have is box. Fine. So I think we are good to go. The image variable holds the image tag we used in the HTML file, and the boxes variable holds all the 3 boxes within it. Simple. Next up, we'll add event listeners to a JavaScript file. Event listeners are predefined events used to perform some specific task. Here we need 2 event listeners, drag start and drag end. The drag start event will call a function which will create separately. So let's add events first, and we'll then go through how to create functions and all after that. So what we'll do is we'll write over here after this image dot add event listener. So this is the JavaScript property. We are going to write here drag start. Okay, so we'll write over here drag start. This is going to be the function we are going to create. There's an error. We forgot to mention the comma over here. It looks fine. And we'll write over here image dot add event listener. So we are going to add another event, the drag end event. So we'll write over here drag end, and we need to create another function for that. So we are going to write over here drag end. That's it. Remember that we are using these events on the image only to drag it from one place to another. We could have done it on the HTML file, wherein we can include these events in the image tag like we were doing in some other videos, but it can be confusing because we have to include so many functions there, right? So it can be confusing at times. So that's why we are doing it separately. Now moving ahead, we'll create these 2 functions now. The 2 functions are drag start. We mentioned over here the drag start function, and we have the drag end function. So let's create these functions quickly. We'll write over here function drag start. So this is our function, and just leave some space for this function body, and then we'll create another function which is going to be drag end, and we need to write it here like this. We have 2 functions, the drag start, which is for the drag start, and the drag end. Fine. So we are done with 2 functions. Now we have 2 functions. One will start the dragging event and the other one will end the dragging event. Fine. For instance, we'll write over here, we are going to use the console for now. So let me show you guys. We'll write over here console.log, and we'll write over here dragging. Now this function will trigger when we start dragging, and we'll write over here console.log dragged. Fine. Okay, just a minute. We need to put semicolons over here. It's a good practice to use them. So let's understand the working now. Save the program, and what we need to do is we need to open the console. So we'll write over here. Okay, just a minute. Let me put the console over here. Let me increase the size of this console a bit so that you guys can see it. Okay, I guess it's visible now. So here you can see once we start dragging this image, you can see we are able to drag this image, and the drag start function triggers the moment we start dragging it. So here you can see we have dragging written over here on the console. The moment we drop this image, you can see the dragged or we can say the drag end function triggers, and we have this dragged written over here on the console. So here you can see it again. We can drag it and the drag start function triggers. We can drop it and the drag end function triggers. That's it. So both the functions are working totally fine. Now we want to drag this image, and we want to drag this image in such a way that there remains nothing left behind in the first box. So here you can see if we are dragging this image, we still have this image inside the first box. So what we want to do is we want nothing behind this image. So we want the first box to be empty the moment we start dragging our image. Fine. For that, we need to make some style changes. We have to make the image invisible on dragging. So let's add a style property in the CSS part to achieve it. What we'll do it, we'll move to the HTML document, and here we'll write over here inside the CSS property, or we can say the CSS part, dot invisible. This is the class. Fine. What it will do is it will set the display property to none upon calling. So the invisible property will make the space empty. To give this class to the image, we have to write here inside the drag start function. So we'll move back to the JavaScript part once again, and we'll remove this because this function is working fine. So we'll write over here this dot. Okay. So we have to write here this dot class name is equals to, we have to write here invisible. Fine. So we have to write here invisible and just save it, and let's try to drag the image now. So here you can see on dragging the image it becomes completely invisible. We don't want that to happen. We want this image to disappear from the first box with a minimal delay. So we'll use the Settimeout method. What we'll do is we'll write over here inside the function drag start. So we need to write over here. So we'll leave it like this. Let me just show you how to use the Settimeout method. So we'll write over here set timeout. So this is our method, and we need to create another function. So let's create one anonymous function over here. We'll write over here equals to. So this is an anonymous function. Now inside this anonymous function we have to write this. So we'll write over here this dot class name, and we have to print it over here inside this, and we have to write here 0 because we need minimal delay. Now this will work fine, I guess. Save the program, and here you can see the image. You can see the image is disappeared from the first box, but we still have the somewhat invisible image. So it's not completely invisible, but it's not that opaque as well. So the invisible property, or we can say the CSS property we use, the invisible property, the display property, whatever it was, it's working totally fine. Now for the drag end function, we'll again set the class as image to insert the image on ending. So it looks quite easy, right guys? Now what we need to do for the drag end function is we'll again set the class as image to insert the image on ending. Now what we'll do is we'll write over here. So we have this drag property. So we'll write over here this dot class name. Now we need to do one more thing over here. Here we have used image. We'll write over here dot image, and we'll make some more changes over here inside the image tag as well. We'll write over here class as image. Save it, and it's working totally fine. You can see the dragging and all the functions are also working. So now what we'll do is we'll write over here this dot class name is equals to image. Fine. Now save the program. You can see it's working. The image, we are able to drag it, we are able to drop it, and we are able to see the image back on dropping it. Fine. I hope you guys understood it till now. Next up, we'll add some more events to the boxes as well. For all the boxes, we have to loop through them and use certain functions. We'll use the for of loop to loop through boxes. So the for of loop is present in JavaScript. You guys can use them. You guys can go through what is for of loop. You can find the video in our channel as well. So we'll write over here for. Now we'll write over here const box of boxes. Now we are going to loop through all the boxes. So we'll write over here box dot add event listener. We are going to start with the drag over event, we'll write over here drag over. Then we are going to write the name of function. So the function is going to be drag over again. And we need not to write here this. Now copy this because we need some more functions. So we'll copy this from here. Okay, just a minute. So we'll paste it here. We'll paste it 4 times. Now what we are going to do is we are going to change the names of functions and events. So after drag over, we are going to write over here drag enter. Then after drag enter, we are going to write over here drag leave. And after drag leave, we are going to write over here drop. So these are the 4 events. Now we are going to create functions for them as well. So we'll write over here drag enter, the first function. Then after this, we are going to write over here drag leave. And the last one is going to be obviously drop. Fine. So these all are the functions. Here we are adding 4 different events to the boxes for 4 different scenarios. We have to declare these functions to achieve the drag and drop part altogether. Save it once. And you can see here in the console, it says drag over is not defined. Here you can see it says drag over is not defined, right? So let's define these functions as well first. Now what we are going to do is we are going to define them here. We are going to write over here function drag. We have function drag over. Okay, there's something wrong. So we'll write over here drag over. This is the body of the drag over function. Then we have function drag enter. This is going to be the body of the drag enter function. Then we have drag leave as well. So we'll write over here drag leave. Okay, so we need to write the function keyword as well. I forgot to do it. So we'll write over here function drag leave, this and this. Okay, so after this function drag leave, we are going to write over here function drop. We are done with all the 4 functions. These are the 4 functions. The last thing to do is we are almost done with the video. So let's start defining these functions. We can see the functioning of these functions real quick. Use the console.log function again, or we can say the console.log method again inside each function. So let's see if these functions are working fine or not. We are going to write over here console.log. Let's say over this function, when the function will trigger, it will print over. And let's copy it from here, paste it here. There's something wrong. Okay, we need to remove this, we need to paste it there and remove this, we need to paste it here again and remove this. Fine, all the 4 functions we have. Let's change what we are going to print on each function's triggering. So we'll write over here enter, then we'll write over here leave. It will print leave on the console basically when the function drag leave will trigger, and for drop it will print drop. Save the program and you can see the error is gone. Copy this from here. Here you can see. Okay, let me show it to you once again. Okay, so we have this image over here. Try dragging it. It says over, leave, enter, over, and the function triggers again and again and again. Fine. So now we have to cancel the default working of this drag over function because we want to assign a particular task to this function. We'll use the event listener parameter for it along with the prevent default method. So for the drag over function first, we need a parameter. So let's say E is the parameter. Now what we'll do is we'll remove this console.log from here. We'll write over here e.prevent default. Fine. The same will do for all of them. Fine. Now the prevent default method is used to prevent the browser from executing the default action of the selected element. Next up, we'll do the same for drag enter method as well. The central part is in the leave and drop functions. So here what we'll do is we'll write E over here. We'll copy this e.prevent default. We'll paste it in place of console.log. Fine. Save it, and here you can see it on the console. It makes no difference. So there are no errors as of now. We'll do the same for drag leaf function because we are not changing any style or anything for now. So we'll write over here inside the drag leaf. We'll paste e.prevent default again. We are going to use the parameter as e. So we are left with the drop function only. If you're changing the style of boxes on certain events like drag enter and drag leave, then remember to change the styling back to the original one while dropping the image to another container. For that, just change the class name back to original. So what we'll do is we'll write over here inside the drop function this dot, okay, so we have to write here class name is equals to box. Fine. So the last thing we are left with is the image on the new box. For that, we have to append the image to a box on dropping it. So what we'll do is we'll write here inside the drop function only this dot append, and we need to write over here image. That's it. So the image here is the class name, and it will append this image to the box. Save it, go to the console. Or now there's no need to go to the console. Save the program, start dragging the image, drop it, and here you can see we are able to do it. Here you can see we are able to pick this image from any one container, and we are able to drop it. We are able to drag and drop it. Fine. So in simple words, we are able to drag this image from container 1 to any of these containers. We can drop it in container 2, 3, 1, anywhere we want. It totally depends upon us. So this is how the drag and drop elements in JavaScript and HTML actually works. The vital part is played by JavaScript, although HTML and CSS also plays their important roles in this particular task. So HTML is used to create the structures, we create those boxes, we edit that image with the help of HTML. We style those boxes and image with the help of CSS, and then we added interactivity with the help of JavaScript to those boxes, that image, everything. So all the three concepts are important for this drag and drop elements. So if you feel that we have missed out on some important topics that we were supposed to cover in this particular tutorial, then please free to drop them down in the comment section below, guys, and we'll have your questions answered. And also we'll consider every suggestion provided by you. So with that, this is Kaushal signing off until next time. Thank you, guys.